Josh here. Delays. I made a prediction a while back. The Gothic wouldn't come out until January. I missed it. It came earlier. It was close. And now we're looking at delays for certain regions of the world. Now, according to the announcement, that delay is approximately going to be 1 week or so, although that is not firm and it could actually be longer. Now, the regions that are going to be affected: Europe, Australia, and Brazil. I think this is the first set that's really getting actual distribution into Brazil. So to have a delay there, I'm not surprised. There's a lot more to work out initially. It is the delays to Europe and Australia that I think are much more disconcerting. Eric's Curiosa has had the opportunity to try to fix some of these things with the prior set releases to make sure that product arrives and is available on those release date so that this worldwide release can be enjoyed by everyone at the same time. And because of a shipping delay that is out of Eric's Curiosa's control, that did not happen. Now, the thing I don't understand about that statement is that I could swear, and I couldn't find it. I looked for it before I filmed this thing, and I could not find it. I could swear that at some point, Eric's Curiosa had indicated that the reason for the December 5th release date was so that products could be in place to ensure a worldwide release at the same time. So I kind of thought that product was, almost there, very close to being there. And apparently the delay was for the shipping time. I guess when I read that statement, which again I can't find, but I'm sure I don't think I dreamed it up. I kind of thought that it was, no, we got the products in place and then we're, moving them from those hubs to the distributors. And maybe that is maybe that was the case, but I don't know. This almost sounds like it's tied up at customs or something else. But I'm not certain for the reason why. I just know that a lot of people are going to be very frustrated. And that's the real issue with this delay. Now, all the same stuff can be said. Eric's Curiosa is a small team. International shipping and the logistics of that are always very difficult, especially in countries that have a lot of bureaucracy. And Europe has a lot of bureaucracy. Red tape, those types of things. Those things can really slow down anyone trying to get product of any kind into those markets. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that a whole lot of things were riding on that December 5th release date across the world. And now, an event the size of Siege at the Core in Brussels may not have Gothic for its release. That is just, that is a huge problem. It is a massive problem, especially when the very first event for Siege at the Core is a full box sealed event. So you open a full box to build your deck to play with. That's the first event on December 5th. If they do not have that product in hand, that whole event may fall apart. And to make it worse, that event was actually moved from the weekend before, actually this weekend coming up. It was supposed to be this weekend that we're approaching right now. That actually, it should be today. It should be today that Siege at the Core had started, but then it was moved because of the release date for Gothic so that Gothic could be there. And now it looks like all that may have been for naught. Now I hope that that isn't what really pans out. the people over at Siege at the Core, they put a lot of time in this event. They've done everything they can to make it a great event. And I've got to hope that Eric's Curiosa is going to somehow make sure that they have product for that event. Although, given shipping times and that, I don't know. I don't know how you make that happen. Maybe it can be done with air freight, but that's going to be extremely expensive. There's just a lot of issues. And that's just one major event. There are multiple stores across Europe that were going to have release day events, whether that was Friday or Saturday. And now all of those events are up in the air because nobody knows that the product's going to be there or not. We did get some very early news this morning out of one of the distributors that they're thinking it may be possible to actually hit that date, but they're not 100% certain, and it was one of the larger distributors. But there was another distributor that was saying it's probably going to be February. Now, I don't remember if that was it. That may not have been it. No, I think that was one of the European distributors. So, and maybe they're just really conservative and they're like, we're not going to give any date sooner than that just because we want to make sure that, we're covered. Maybe that's what it is. But whatever it is, this is the type of problem that I was really hoping we were not going to have this time. Again, the Brazil thing, I understand they just got that distributor in Brazil a couple months back, so I can see that. But the European thing, and the Australian thing, I just don't get why we can't get past that. Why, whatever it is, and again, it's bureaucracy, which I know far too much about. And there's, you just got to wait for the clerk to do what the clerk's going to do. But it's still incredibly frustrating and challenging for individuals that are trying to put on these major release events. And now they may not happen. And now, maybe for a local store, it's not that big of a deal. They can cancel it, and then when they actually have the product in hand, they can redo it. But for stores that were putting a lot of time and effort into it, I think White Rabbit over there was putting a lot of effort into their release event. Obviously, Siege at the Core. So it's so what's the word I want here? I'm not sure what word I want here. It's just, I guess it wasn't expected. It was unexpected. Because I personally thought because of the improvement that we had seen between Beta and Arthurian Legends and the delays, I thought, okay, they're going to have it. Eric's Curiosa is going to have it down this time. It's going to happen. And the product in Europe will at least be on time. And here we are. It looks like it's going to be at least a week, maybe more. Although there's that small glimmer of hope from that one distributor. So I don't know. But then on top of that, there's another thing that's happening. And this could be salt in the wound, although I don't think it's actually happening the way many people are thinking. So we have the delay. Europe, Australia, Brazil. But people are posting tracking numbers for their product from some vendors. And it says that they're going to have it on the 1st, December the 1st. I don't know about that. I'm as much as initially I was alarmed. I was like, oh, this is not good. That this stuff is going to show up in people's doorsteps on December 1st. And people are going to be breaking street date well before any, a lot of people in the U.S. receive their Gothic. And just to be clear, the product that I'm talking about over in Alpha Investments, Rudy had his sale, he sold his stuff, and people are posting those tracking numbers, and they're showing earlier release dates. But here's my thing, and the more I talk to people about this, and the more people I talk to, I don't think it's actually the product. So a lot of those individuals have 2 tracking numbers. The first one is moving. The second one isn't. So I think personally what happened is that that first tracking number is the promo stuff, maybe even the pre-cons, and the other tracking number is the case or the master case of boxes. That's what I actually think might be happening, and why one tracking number is saying that it's going to arrive on time and the other tracking number is still saying it's just printed. I hope that's what's happening, because I would hate not only to have a delay in those regions, but also here in the US, people have their product on December the 1st, maybe even earlier. Just because something says it's arriving December the 1st, a lot of times those things will be delivered a day, maybe even too early. So if that December 1st date's right, there are going to be people getting that whatever that is that was shipped today. Now, if that's just the playmats and the promo and even the pre-cons, I don't see any big deal with that. But if it's the boxes and they're getting that stuff potentially today, we're going to be seeing stuff on all the social platforms very, very quickly. So I would have one piece of advice to all of you out there. Because we don't know which way this is going to go, you may wish to strongly consider going on a blackout from Sorcery social media platforms, including my own. Now, I will tell you this. I have no intention whatsoever of breaking street date. That is not going to happen. It does put me in a bit of a bind from the perspective of the channel. Obviously, when this stuff hits, I'm going to want to talk about these cards. I'm going to want to talk about what's happening. I'm going to want to talk about the markets. I'm going to want to talk about all of those things, strategies, all that. But I'm not going to do that until the 5th, because I just don't think it's right. So that is sort of, that's the situation I'm in, and I'm not happy about it. But this is how all TCGs are. People get product early and then they post it all, and then it's all over the place. So if you really want a pure Gothic opening experience, you may definitely want to consider at this point, at least if you're not going to go on a full blackout, be very vigilant, because if those boxes that were shipped actually contain product and people have them today or Monday, stuff's going to be up all over the Sorcery social platforms. So just, I would, early this week, I think I'd just avoid it. I think I'd avoid everything until if I wanted that pure experience, opening the boxes, experience it myself, going in as blind as possible, given the spoilers that we've had, I don't think I'd be looking at Sorcery socials at all this next week. I don't think I'd do it. Maybe that's being too crazy, but I just think if that's what you want, that's the best way to ensure that it happens. And of course, it's going to be tough, right? If you're on certain platforms put stuff into your feed. You just have to accept it. But there are things you can do. Don't go on the Discords for a week, right? You can just be off the Discords. No worries. I don't let Discord send me alerts. Maybe some of you do. I don't let it send me alerts. So I don't get anything from Discord unless I am physically in that app. Or not physically. Unless I am in that app. That is the only time I see anything that's on Discord. Same with Reddit, although, of course, Reddit will send you notifications, so you might have to avoid that. I'm just saying, if you want that pure experience, you may want to start considering paring back how much time you're spending on Sorcery socials. So right now, that's where we're at. Regional delays. Bah. Europe, Australia, Brazil. Really, yeah, just really sad. Really hate that. putting myself in the shoes of someone in Europe who wants to be involved in this game, at this point, I've got to think so many of them, if they've been in for the long haul, right? If they've done beta, they've done Arthurian Legends, now they're doing Gothic, they have got to be frustrated to a level to a level where maybe they walk. That is that's a very possible thing that could happen. People could be like, I'm done. This is the third strike. I'm moving on. I'm going to games that, are able to hit their worldwide release dates. And that is one thing. I don't know if this is common for TCGs, smaller indie ones. I mean, obviously Magic has no issues, but the smaller indie TCGs, do they have issues with hitting their worldwide release dates? I don't know that. I'm not plugged into that. I don't think so, but again, I'm not plugged in. So, whatever this indie TCG is over here, and there was a delay in Europe, I'm not going to hear about that, more than likely. It's not going to come onto my radar at all. So I do wonder if this is something that happens with them, or if this is just kind of a sorcery issue. I may look into that, maybe. I don't know. Something to think about. So the delay, potential early product, I hope not. And I do think the more I thought about it, the more I considered it, the whole idea of the 2 tracking numbers and only one is moving, I'm like, yeah, feels to me like the actual booster boxes were that second tracking number that's not moving. But we'll find out probably in the next couple of days. So if you want to be a little bold, you can look for that and see if that's actually what pans out, and you can be safe. But if you do, and it turns out those are booster boxes, and you pop in, and then the first thing you see is, oh, look at my Gothic booster box. Look at the picture of people's posts with everything they pulled. Yeah, you might run into one of those. So take it or leave it, how you want to do it. I don't know. It's going to be a tough week, I think. I think this week coming up is going to be tough if you want to avoid spoilers. It's going to be tough for me personally because if these things happen where there's early cards shown other than things through official channels, I'm not going to be able to, I personally will not talk about them as much as I will want to, but I'm going to honor that street date. So there is that. That's it for today. One last thing. I'm thinking about doing a live to open my Gothic boxes. So midnight, the 4th going into the 5th, I'm thinking about doing a live. If you would be interested in me doing something like that, having a live at midnight, the 4th going into the 5th, if you'd be interested in that, just put it in the comments below and let me know. I was actually thinking, well, maybe I could do, I had 2 versions of this. One was the midnight opening, 4th into the 5th. And then the other was doing a 10 p.m. live on the 5th, just opening, so that everyone kind of had their opportunity to open their own stuff. And obviously, I will not be able to do this midnight thing unless my product shows up early. So that may not even be a possibility for me. Heck, the other one at 10 p.m. on the 5th may not even be a possibility for me. It just depends when the product I have ordered shows up. I'm just kind of waiting to see what that happens. But if you'd be interested in something like that, because again, doing the midnight thing, that is going to spoil it for you. And I don't want to spoil that for people, but you'd have the choice, but is it even worth it for me to do it? Because so many of you are like, hey, I'm not going to watch that, Josh, because I want to enjoy it too. And that's totally fair, and I'm totally fine. So if I don't have to take the time to be up at midnight, that sounds good to me. That's it for today. As always, keep on contesting the realm!